Good time of day, guys! My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. Last episode, we continued Tsukiotoshi as Rena, Shion, and Keiichi plotted how they're going to assassinate Teppei and leave no trace of him behind. But I think they failed to consider that maybe digging a hole for the body is not a smart idea. You see, a forest, anyone can walk through. If you can dig a hole and hide a body, anyone can dig a hole and hide a body. Anybody can take a shovel and go clunk, clunk. Oh, throw the dead body in there. Wouldn't you sooner think, okay, if anyone can go into forest, I need to hide body somewhere very few people, if anyone, can go. Your own private property. Now, of course, if someone finds it there, they're going to suspect the person who owns that property. But people can't go in your house without your permission. Hell, people can't go in certain parts of your house without permission. If I wanted to, I could put a dead body in my closet and no one would find it because I just wouldn't let them in. Like, you just aren't allowed to look in the closet, okay? You can't look in the closet, and if you say no, they can't do it. Let's read. Don't look in my closet, by the way. Because remember, I erase people from history. Not conventional murder. Before we realized it, the sun was already starting to set. It pierced through the thick clouds to shine down on us. I'm assuming this is going to be the last episode of Tsukiotoshi, but we'll see. I looked up at the sky from the dusky base of the hole. Think this'll do it? On my signal, we all crawled out of the ground like rats. Rats? Rats don't go underground. We dug quite a lot. I threw my shovel down, then crouched down to examine the hole. The shape was a little weird since we were digging from 3 different points, but the hole ended up deeper than I expected. It seemed big enough to hide a single corpse. My intense breathing seemed to get sucked into the depths of the hole. Bang, scrape, thud. The shovel slipped out of Rena's hand and rolled into the hole. She must have been exhausted.
Oh, what to do? Rena did something foolish.
Rena stretched her hand out to pick up the shovel, but she couldn't reach. It was so far down into darkness that it was hard to make out its shape. Guess there's no other choice. I'll hop down and grab it. Yeah, we can't leave any evidence behind. I mean, if you're burying the hole anyways, but I mean, they are Keiichi's family's shovels, so yeah.
Sorry, Keiichi-kun.
Don't worry about it. I put my hand on the edge of the hole and jumped down in a single fluid motion. Thump. I botched the landing and fell down inside the hole. The taste of the dirt swirled inside my mouth. I spit it out right away and searched for the shovel. Right away, my fingertips felt something cold and metallic. It was a time capsule. It was a treasure chest. Holy shit, guys. Let's make the arc go a different direction. Then I grabbed the shovel and rose to my feet. But that moment... Ring... I heard that sound again. The same one I heard inside the station wagon. Then, I heard something after all. Rena and Shion were talking up above with little regard for me or that sound. What, are you the only one with Hinamizawa syndrome? After all, that doesn't make much sense. I strained my ears. With my entire body focused on listening, I was able to pick up a few words from their conversation. Keiichi, my name. Mistake. Kill? What? What are they talking about? Doesn't know. Pathetic. What do they mean by that? Are they talking about me? Huh? What? From before, hate. Who? What is this? So those guys have... No, since the beginning, they've... Unable to hold it in any longer, a groan leaked from my mouth. Doesn't know anything? Will die anyway. Well, they're obviously talking about Teppei, but fine. Their conversation reeked of an unsettling stench. I was no longer able to gauge their true intentions. Right away, I began to feel distant. Are they organizing another plan without my knowledge? Do they not want me involved in their plan? Or maybe their plan has already been set in motion. All the questions crawling around in my head prevented me from thinking calmly. I took a deep breath, hoping to clear my head. Where on earth am I? Where on earth have I gone? Where am I being taken? Suddenly, the falling sunset was obstructed by two shadows.
Keiichi-kun, did you find it?
When I cautiously lifted my head, I saw Rena and Shion looking down at me with innocent smiles on their faces. What's wrong? Your face looks kind of pale.
Keiichi-kun, here, grab Rena's hand.
Rena reached out to me with a concerned expression, but I hesitated for a moment, wondering if it was okay to take that hand. Was that a hallucination earlier? It must be a hallucination. Rena and Shion have no reason to betray me. Really? Was it really a hallucination? Stop it! Don't try to fill my mind with doubts! Don't listen! Even though we planned everything out, discord was running rampant. That incomprehensible question, those two eyes, the shadows following behind, the silent phone call, wicked secrets, and the two hands of Oyashiro-sama. Well, no, all three of them would have to have Hinamizawa syndrome, right? It would make no sense if only Keiichi did. Because Shion also heard the silent phone call. And she had her whole breakdown towards the end of last episode, and Rena's having her whole Sumihoroboshi thing. They have to, you know? Anytime I do something, one more thread pulls loose. I've been desperately trying not to look at it. That's right. It's gotta be a hallucination. As I said that, a small amount of the guilt in my heart was able to release. This is my curse. My curse for abandoning my humanity.
Keiichi-kun?
Rena had an uneasy expression, but I smiled at her and grabbed her hand.
Ready? And... heave-ho!
That's a rude thing to call him. My body floated upward as Rena's hands tugged at me. The scene before my eyes looked like a kaleidoscope. Looking up at the sky, the clouds covering the area had already begun to scatter. The storm I saw earlier surely wasn't approaching. Oh, okay. So the scenario I had constructed was already being rewritten? Am I just a puppet, dancing according to someone else's script? Oh, we're doing this. It's about time. Perhaps sensing my apprehension, Shion chimed in to remind us of our time limit. I couldn't think any longer. I was tired. So now I just followed after Rena and Shion as they pressed onward, without knowing what will be waiting for us ahead. You know, a curious factor I just thought about. In Tatari Goroshi, Satoko also had Hinamizawa syndrome. I mean, she does anyways, but, I mean, it was a lot more active. She pushed Keiichi off the bridge after all, so, like... So I wonder how that's going to apply in this. Tonight, all of this will reach its conclusion. Dun dun dun. Alrighty. So are we skipping straight to Teppei murder, or do we got more to detour off to? We opened a door to the phone booth, intent on enticing Teppei out of his home. The phone booth was a short ways down the road, standing alone on the edge of the forest. It would disappear into the darkness of the night if not for the streetlight brightly shining down on it to highlight its presence. What is a phone booth doing in a place like this? I asked once, and was told they installed it so people who noticed a forest fire could call it in, or people experiencing trouble in the forest could call for help. When I carefully focused my hearing, I felt like I could hear someone calling for help. The source of that voice must be Satoko, I thought to myself as my body started to heat up. I wanted to help Satoko as soon as possible. No matter how much anxiety it induced, no matter what doubts arose from it, that was my unshakable conviction. Over time, that belief spread to every corner of my body, slowly growing stronger and eventually taking control of me. That intense conviction dominated my thoughts, and even my free will. I had clearly become a puppet. I picked up the phone receiver to make sure that the line was connected, then closed the door at once. Shion brushed the mud off her wristwatch and indicated the time.
It's still too early.
We elected to hide in the shady grass while waiting for the moment of fate. The silence seemed to last an eternity. The weight of that silence deepened our bonds. Our eyes didn't cross paths. We just waited motionlessly, clinging to our murderous intent.
We should eat the dinner I made.
Rena broke the silence and pulled out the boxes. I wasn't hungry. Just hearing that at a time like this took the wind out of my sails. Well, Rena is eccentric enough for something like this.
I said that we'd get hungry at some point, didn't I? Let's use this opportunity to replenish our energy.
Rena thrust a pair of chopsticks toward me, then nonchalantly rolled out a handkerchief and opened the box.
Might as well take the opportunity while we still can.
So are we gonna have an Onikakushi moment with this? Shion snapped her chopsticks apart, then gracefully reached for a side dish.
It's delicious! Really? I'm glad to hear it, Shi-chan. We got up early and we've been working tirelessly all day. Thank you, Rena-san.
Shion and Rena smiled happily while eating their food. I was dumbfounded by the latent power inside these creatures they call women. Okay, Keiichi. As I vacantly watched the two of them, I thought back. Mom was taking care of a cute bird last year, but it died of an unforeseen illness. She silently embraced its body, and she cried for a long time. I didn't know what to say, so I just avoided going near her. At that moment, there was an out-of-place growl in the room. It was Mom's stomach. Mom then smiled with embarrassment, rose to her feet, and quickly started making dinner. Don't be stupid. Even if you're not hungry, you still have to eat. We're humans. We'll die if we don't eat. Mom's words replayed as if they were encouraging me. So I snapped my chopsticks apart, wanting to hold on to whatever vestiges of humanity I had left before they completely faded.
Alright, Keiichi-kun. Have some onigiri.
The onigiri The onigiri Rena offered me was decorated with thin sliced egg and sakura starch. The delicate pattern was as pleasing on the eyes as it was on the stomach. But for me right now, I couldn't see it as anything but a huge lump of rice. Even though I managed to lift it close to my mouth, I stopped myself before taking a bite.
Is it not to your liking?
That's not it. It looks delicious. Thanks for the food.
Of course. Please, go ahead and eat.
I forced my mouth open and twisted the onigiri inside. It had no scent, no taste. It felt like I was grinding sand inside my mouth. I was attacked with nausea on several occasions, but I persisted and continued chewing.
Keiichi-kun, you think Rena's onigiri tastes bad, don't you?
No way. It tastes fine. I'm just feeling a little nervous.
Really?
I didn't want to hurt Rena's feelings, So I flashed her a V for victory hand signal. You mean a peace sign?
Thank goodness.
Rena looked relieved as she took another onigiri out of the box. Wait a minute. I'm not sure if I can take anymore. Perhaps the prayer in my heart made it through. She moved the onigiri right past me and held it out to Shion.
Please, try some onigiri, Shi-chan. There's tuna inside.
For some reason, Shion just shook her head and stared at the onigiri.
You don't like onigiri?
That was made from canned tuna, right? No way, I hate that. Oh, okay. What's wrong with canned tuna? You know what? I'm gonna litmus test some of my viewers right now. You guys ready for this? I bet you didn't expect a pop quiz. You know what's really good if you add canned tuna to it? This is more you guys litmus testing me, by the way. Mac and cheese. That shit goes so fucking unreasonably hard. If you don't trust me, then you're not gonna try it. But if you can stomach canned tuna, add that to some boxed mac and cheese. Like, just go do that. Go do that. Buy a can of tuna, add it to a box of mac and cheese, and thank me later. It is so fucking peak. I love it. Anyways, Rena was shocked by that sudden rejection. Obviously drained the water too, though.
I'm sorry, Rena-san, but I just can't eat canned food.
Oh, right. I
don't even want to look at it.
Why?
Well, it's just that I heard an awful rumor a long time ago. Sorry, would you mind cleaning that up as soon as possible?
Once Shion said that, Rena and I looked at each other and kept silent. Then we silently ate our food without bothering to taste it. Once we finished the food, it was already a few minutes past the time we planned to make our call. We rushed over to the phone booth, worrying that the plan was already falling apart. Rena let out a quick giggle. I envied Rena's peculiar ability to laugh like normal in a situation like this.
It's like the three of us are playing a game of Oshikura Manju.
What is that? The three of us were competing for the limited space inside the telephone booth. It was far over capacity, so Rena and I stepped out. By the way, do you know if Satoko actually went to the festival?
Yeah, Rena asked Rika-chan to take her there.
There's no chance that Teppei would stop her from going?
He was reluctant, but apparently he agreed to it.
I see. Then it'll be fine. How'd you figure that out? Whatever. That meant Teppei was all alone. Our intense will was like telepathy, manipulating Teppei from afar. I took that as a good omen and kept it in mind like I was clutching a charm.
Alright, I'll give him a call.
Shion gave us a determined look as she lifted the receiver. Then she looked up at the ceiling for a while, perhaps trying to recall the Hojo family's phone number. I put a hand on the door and blankly stared at Shion through the glass. The fluorescent lights inside the phone booth reflected along the walls, making Shion's face look twisted. Shion's slender fingers slowly turned the dial. Eventually, I could hear it ringing. I was ensnared by that inorganic sound. It was like my brain had shut off. I lost all sense of my surroundings. I felt like I was drifting alone. Even if he doesn't answer, we've already confronted him. I felt the desire to commit murder building up inside me. Yes! When the ringing finally stopped, I heard Teppei's sluggish voice. Is this Hojo-san's residence? Oh, wow, she does an amazing cop impression. Shut up! Shion quickly turned her gaze downward, trying to keep calm. That's right, but what's this about? This is Okinomiya Police Station. Pardon me, but is this Teppei Hojo-san? Ah, yeah, it is, but... I could hear Teppei grow flustered and humbled when he heard it was the police. Hearing him that insignificant in person, it felt good. I believe Satoko Hojo-san is under your care there. What? Satoko? What did that brat do? Teppei seemed to be getting worked up without realizing this was a trap. Shion calmly continued, leaving little room to doubt her words. I can explain the particulars once you have arrived here. Would you mind coming to the station right away? Right now? I was in the middle of taking a bath. I knew that without needing to be told. We researched Teppei's day-to-day habits and learned he always took a bath around the sun. When did you do that? Right on schedule. The plan was still on track. That conviction caused my heart to race. Besides, I was planning to go to bed soon, so I don't want to go all the way out there. Teppei was making excuses to avoid coming down as though he found it a pain. Is that so? If you're unable to come here, we'll send someone there to pick you up. Huh? What is that supposed to mean? The courts have already completed the paperwork. By tomorrow morning? You mean a search warrant? Shion's bluff caused Teppei to raise his voice. If you really think about it, there's no way the police would give someone prior notification before conducting a search. Did Teppei have something to hide from the police? Or was he just a weak-minded coward? Either way, he was shamelessly panicking about it. Understood. I'll head there right away. No need to get more people involved, please. Very well. We'll be waiting. Click. Shion let out a deep sigh after hanging up the receiver. Then she turned to face us. Alright, it's showtime. Man, you're a good impressionist.
Truly, what the fuck?
Well, canonically, Mion and Shion, can imitate the other. It would make sense if they could imitate Oishi. Why not? We gazed at one another and silently nodded. Words were no longer necessary. After this, I'll take Teppei Hojo's life with my own hands. We rushed in the direction of the Hojo house at full speed. Shion went ahead of us on her scooter to handle preparations at the scene while Rena and I were en route. But doesn't he ride a motorcycle? How are you going to catch up to him if he just starts going now? Don't you need to do the rope? Teppei would probably take the time to change his clothes and maybe have a cigarette, but time was of the essence. Our plans would amount to nothing if Teppei somehow managed to sneak by us and make it to town. It would undo everything we set in motion. We have to stop him, no matter what it takes. In my impatience, my feet managed to miss the pedals on several occasions. Oh, you're biking, that makes sense. My bike made an unpleasant thunk each time. I occasionally glanced behind me. Rena was frantically pedaling a short distance behind. She had a demon-like appearance. Perhaps she just noticed me looking at her, because her expression quickly morphed into an eerie smile. It was our mission to rescue a lonely girl from her hardship. It was our duty to restore the smile to our classmate's face. Rena's face seemed distorted by the clash of those two ideals. Our ideal future. The overwhelming power of those words seemed to cast a shadow on our surroundings for a moment. Rushing to the scene at full speed, we passed by several families dressed in yukatas. They must be on the way to the festival. Even though I didn't recognize them, these were people from Hinamizawa, so there was a good chance they could recognize my face. Just passing by them like this was filling my heart with dread. But this wasn't my part of town, so there was a chance they didn't know me. Plus, I looked at all their faces, and it was clear they were focused entirely on the festival, since it happens only once a year. They weren't paying the least bit attention to someone sticking to the shadows like me. Enough. There's no sense worrying about that now. It's too late for that. Anyway, we have to arrive at the scene as quickly as possible. I took a moment to catch my breath before preparing for the ambush. Kei-chan, this way. Shion was already at the scene. She whispered and beckoned us toward her with a hand signal. Teppei hasn't arrived yet. The preparations are already complete. When I gazed off into the darkness, I could see I could see a black rope laying across the road. I almost just accidentally unplugged my fucking headphones. With my foot. I've done that before. I took Satoshi's bat out of my backpack and wiped the sweat away with my sleeve, then gripped it tightly.
Rena-san, please handle the other end of the rope.
Yeah.
Rena bowed to Shion, then moved to the shadows on the other side of the road. The voice of the crickets rang out, seeming to laugh at me for using barbarism in the name of justice. Like a warning, or maybe applause. Fire and water were falling together, a bizarrely balanced contradiction. Ring. The silence was suddenly torn apart, bringing me back to reality. I heard it again. The same sound I heard inside the station wagon and at the bottom of the hole. I looked behind me with my eyes wide open. Whatever. So, is what's gonna happen here? I feel like what's gonna happen is that Keiichi isn't just gonna kill Teppei. Like, he's probably gonna Onikakushi the other two, right? No, yeah, I mean, yeah. That's fair wording. Then I found Shion holding the source of that noise. Shion, what is that?
It's a stun gun.
She held up the stun gun so I could see the pale light emanating from it, with a fearless smile on her face. Ring. The current drew sparking lines as it made that disturbing noise. Why?
I felt awkward about making you kill him all on your own, Kei-chan. Plus, I need to be certain that he's killed properly.
I realized that Shion's true intentions leaned more toward the latter. In other words, she didn't trust me to get the job done. I suddenly recalled that secret conversation I heard at the bottom of the hole. Doesn't know anything. Will die anyway. Shion's murderous intent was growing, but maybe it wasn't directed at Teppei alone. But me as well? Yeah. Why? Shion was doubting my willingness to carry out the murder. If I lost my will and tried to run away at the last minute, she'd kill me without hesitation. She wanted to bury any evidence, setting up a backup plan to handle the worst case scenario. Every hair on my body stood on end when I realized how ruthlessly calculating Shion must be to have that planned out.
Sorry for keeping it a secret. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt your pride. Please, forgive me.
She turned and smiled toward me, and gently placed a hand on my shoulder as if trying to calm me down. My entire body recoiled like I was being electrocuted.
Are you okay?
Shion looked concerned, but the value of that expression was destroyed by the threatening atmosphere. I turned toward Rena, seeking help. Then, in the darkness, I saw Rena pull a shadowy object from her duffel bag. The hatchet? It was a massive hatchet! Rena lifted the hatchet and moved into position to wait for our target. Both of Rena's eyes were flashing red. Even Rena was hiding thoughts of betrayal behind an innocent face.
Rena-san feels the same way I do. But she also made it clear that she intends to verify his blood is red.
That's the bloodline again. Somehow I had lost the trust of my comrades, and with it, my spirit. My vision was fogging over, and Satoshi's bat was slowly sliding out of my grip thanks to all my cold sweat. I steadied my breathing to clear my thoughts. I think they're all having an Onikakushi moment, actually. Like, they are all distrusting the others, right? I can't turn back. If I turn my back now, I'll be killed. All this focused breathing was causing me to start hyperventilating. When I started convulsing, Shion came over and rubbed my back. I let out a brief scream and crouched down to the ground. My instinctive reaction was to exhale all the air I had collected. Shion calmly lowered herself beside me and continued rubbing my back. If you breathe in too much, you'll poison yourself. Isn't it strange? We're surrounded by poison at all times. Anyway, good news, isn't it? You would have left incriminating evidence at the crime scene if you had vomited. I just stood still. I finally parted with my sanity. All that remained was my pure, unadulterated desire to kill. Yeah, just then, the crickets stopped singing. I could hear the sound of a motorcycle approaching off in the distance. I felt an explosive desire rising up inside me, causing my blood to boil and my entire body to heat up. I took a step forward, as if possessed by something. Whether it was something supernatural like Oyashiro-sama or not, I didn't care anymore. I succumbed and kneeled before the luscious temptation manipulating me. It's getting closer and closer. The target will be here soon. Soon, once he crosses by those bushes over there, he'll appear right before me. In that moment, we'll identify the target. Then if we can confirm that, if we can confirm it. My desire was starting to reach the boiling point. I single-mindedly raised my bat overhead and waited. Waited for him to come out! The bike finally appeared. The features of the target whispered to me that this was indeed Teppei Hojo's motorcycle. Is this really it? This isn't a delusion or a hallucination? I checked the features once again to be sure. The color, the shape, and more importantly, his clothes and his face. That filthy, rotten face! No doubt. No, there's no mistaking this. The bike came closer, closer and closer. As I made my decision, I felt two hands pushing on my back. There was no need to check who those hands belonged to. I already knew. It was Oyashiro-sama. I pictured both my eyes glimmering in the darkness. The most terrible thing in the world was losing my heart to doubt and suspicion and turning myself into a beast. Maybe the fear and strength of Oyashiro-sama's existence was eating at my heart. The bike reached the target position. I'll kill you! Rena and Shion stretched out the rope, causing Teppei's bike to lose balance and tumble to the ground. Ah! Ow, ow, ow! I leapt out of the bushes right as Teppei's pathetic scream roared out. Whoosh! Teppei was suddenly thrown to the ground without realizing what had happened, then groaned as he crawled on the earth. My entire body trembled and I smiled as I looked down at how defenseless Teppei was. I let out a laugh that could echo across the entire world as I swung down the bat. Teppei suddenly rolled over and clung to his head, unable to endure the intense pain. I straddled on top of Teppei to cut off his retreat. Hey, do you know who I am? Teppei blinked incessantly while looking up and trying to identify his assailant. My eyes! My eyes! I felt a unique satisfaction for the first time in my life. Do you want to know who I am? I swung my bat down without giving him a chance to respond. Teppei screamed while twisting his body. I mercilessly stepped on his hands to fend off his escape. My name is Oyashiro-sama. Teppei was starting to feel more terrified as he began to comprehend his situation. People tend to shed their sanity when faced with unbearable fear. I had already begun to feel that myself. And when you reach that point, everything you do becomes haphazard. I swung the bat down on Teppei's legs as he desperately tried to crawl away. No matter how much you panic, Human beings have an instinctive desire to escape danger. Teppei desperately tried to resist and crawl away. Right before my eyes, Teppei's face was growing twisted by fear, and the more he struggled to survive, the more he recognized his own despair. For tonight is the night of the festival! Then I swung my bat at him in a frenzy in order to put an end to those ear-grating moans and his pathetic struggling. My hoarse breath drifted into the darkness nearby. I was alone in this massive universe. It was a symbol of hatred for Teppei, a symbol of devotion to Satoko, and a symbol of the existence of Keiichi Mayabara. In this moment, I was able to become a murderer without losing everything.
Kun? Keiichi-kun?
Rena? Huh? I can hear you. Where are you?
Kei-chan?
Shion? I can only hear your voice. Show yourself. Are you hiding? Huh? I don't see anything. There's nothing but darkness in front of me. I can't make out anything. Oh, it hasn't happened yet, has it? After I rubbed my eyes, I was finally able to make out their blurry silhouettes. Rena and Shion were standing there staring at me. I hesitated to touch the hand being stretched out to me. I suddenly looked down at my palms, and they were covered in something dark. Is this blood? Oh no, it did happen. Teppei's body was laying by my feet. Did I kill him? I struck him with my bat over and over, beating him down as much as I could. That's right, I killed him. I openly joined the ranks of murderers. This brutal display was the main attraction of the Watanagashi festival. I burst into laughter. Not because I enjoyed it. Not because it was funny. Not because I was happy. Not because I was proud. I was filled to the brim with despair. The bat slipped out of the grasp of my fingers. That moment, I lost the very core of my being and collapsed to the ground.
Keiichi-kun, you're covered in blood. But why is it completely black? The blood is all black.
Rena's voice seemed to come from somewhere far away. I gently closed my eyes and touched the cold ground, then rubbed my face. I could vaguely hear Rena and Shion talking in the corner of my consciousness.
Is he really dead?
We should make sure.
Right. We need to make sure.
So he won't get up again.
Rena will take care of it. I'll help.
I heard the sound of someone swallowing their saliva in one massive gulp. And shortly thereafter, an ear-splitting sound rang out across the entire area. Whoosh. Ring. The sounds echoed for an eternity. Rain began to drip down on the side of my face. Eventually, the rain brought along strong winds. The festival was coming to a close. It was already too late to go. Storm, your opportunity is already past. When I gently opened my eyes, I saw a familiar shadow looking down at me. When I gradually turned my gaze upward, what I saw there was... Hey, is this some kind of joke? Oh, hi. Right before my eyes, I saw Satoko standing there.
Keiichi-san!
Satoko...
What are you doing?
Right. Until that moment, I hadn't noticed. We had made a fatal mistake. We were so focused on Teppei Hojo's presence that we completely neglected to consider the most important factor, Satoko Hojo's intentions. The thunder roared like an explosion. The fierce sound of nature ran a jolt through my entire body. I lost all control of my body. I couldn't move. My whole body was shivering as I stared vacantly at Satoko with my eyes open wide. The fierce rain pouring down on my face seemed to wash away the tears. The storm came with impeccable timing. In this violent tempest, it wasn't Teppei crying in his death throes. It was Satoko. What? That brought our festival to its conclusion. A moving finale. The last thing I saw before closing my eyes was only that. Only that. So what fucking happened? Is it... So they killed Teppei? Question mark. And Satoko's here.
What are you all doing together in a place like this?
When I heard her trembling voice, I slowly forced my eyelids open. Satoko. My meaningless words turned into mindless sounds as they traveled into the darkness between the trees. Satoko gazed at us with her huge tear-filled eyes and shivered with her arms around her knees. Just beyond her gaze lay the dark, filthy corpse of her uncle. The excitement of the hunt immediately turned cold. Satoko, why did you come to a place like this? Why did you come here? I felt something like anger boiling up inside me as I stood before Satoko, with her eyes opened wide in bewilderment. All of this was for Satoko. It was all for you. Although that was an undeniable fact, it didn't seem appropriate to say that now. I didn't want her to see this. More than anyone else, I didn't want you to see this, Satoko. So why? Why did she come all the way to a place like this?
Did you go to the festival, Satoko-chan? Did you?
Rena said that in an intimidatingly monotone voice. Shion was carefully watching Satoko with the stun gun in hand. Satoko, what are you doing out here? I squeezed that question out. Since our current situation left us no room to make excuses, the best course of action to take with Satoko was to stay on the defensive. Avoid providing Satoko with any unnecessary explanations, and don't give her an opportunity to ask questions. You need to get out of here right away, Satoko. We still have a lot of things to take care of. More than anything else, we need to deal with this guy right away. Satoko? I took one step closer, prompting a response from Satoko. Satoko took a step back, looking terrified.
You got lost, didn't you? Let's head back to the festival together. Okay, Satoko?
Shion held a hand out to Satoko. However, Satoko pulled her hands away and took another step back.
You're wrong. I just came looking for my uncle. Your uncle, huh? I'm sure he's back at home.
Despite the gentle tone in her voice, I could see the stern look in Rena's eyes. We need her to get out of here. Right away. Rena's eyes clearly signified that.
But my uncle wasn't at home. I don't know where he went.
Even though her voice was trembling, she put all her might into speaking. Satoko was surrounded by an unwelcoming aura. She herself should have understood fully well that she shouldn't be here. The harder Satoko pushed herself, the more pitiful she looked. Nobody wanted to ask why Satoko came here anymore.
I left my uncle alone, so I thought he'd get angry again. I was not expecting...
Satoko's explanation was completely drowned out by that scream. She waved her arms in confusion. She was pushed to her limit by panic and fear. Her emotions were on full display as her face started to twitch.
Don't come any closer! Don't come over here! Murderer! Murderer!
Murderer, 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 ah! Ah! Satoko repeated that word like a broken toy, continuing to chant it like a ritual incantation. Murderer, 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 murderer. Satoko's voice echoed inside my ears. Stop it! Stop it, Satoko! Satoko stared vacantly as her eyes darted back and forth between me, Rena, and Shion, with her legs trembling in fear. Hey, Satoko, are you alright? I ran over to Satoko and grabbed her arm. Let go! Let go! Let go! Let go! Let go! No! Satoko thrust my hand away from her body. Though I staggered, I tried to grab a hold of her hand. But though it was right in front of me, she was flailing so much that it was hard to grab. Satoko, you're wrong! You're wrong! I can't tell you now, but I'm sure I'll be able to tell you everything in the future. This was all to make you happy. We did this to create our ideal future, to win back our precious everyday happiness.
Don't come closer! No! Don't touch me! Stop it! No!
Satoko waved both her arms while running, then stumbled as her feet slipped on a pile of leaves and rolled to the ground. She slowly fell into the pile of leaves and landed on her shin.
No! Someone! There's a murderer!
Satoko's shrieking was deafening. Her screams of terror and despair echoed through me over and over. The sound of her voice made me feel uncomfortable. I was starting to get more and more annoyed. You're free to raise your voice if you want, but if you do that, all our painstaking work up until now will be in vain. Driven by that urge, I impulsively went to smack Satoko. Then, Satoko was screaming her lungs out, but then she suddenly fell to the ground with a thud. Ugh. The screaming stopped and the forest regained its earlier tranquility. Shion had pressed her stun gun to the back of Satoko's neck. Let's put her to sleep for a while. Shion's voice sounded colder than I'd ever heard before. Her eyes looked vacant as she stared down at Satoko. I guess I wasn't the only one feeling unpleasant. Shion. Satoko's pathetic scream was still stuck in my ears. I pitied Satoko, but at the same time, I felt like Shion's ruthless expression was even more unsettling. I guess we're the ones doing something egregious here, aren't we? Doubts were beginning to rise in the back of my head. Shion, are you guiding us down a path with no turning back? Shion, when you killed Teppei and knocked Satoko out, were you really doing it for Satoko's sake? Nope. I was starting to feel dismayed by Shion's cold, dark eyes. Shion went against the plan and brought a stun gun here. I could have handled the murder myself. I thought it would be better for Shion and Rena if they weren't directly involved in killing him. That was for everyone's sake. Nevertheless, Shion ignored my wishes and brought a weapon. What on earth was she thinking? Does she have other plans I don't know about? It was creepy to think that I had an accomplice I knew so little about.
We've lost a lot of time, so we need to speed things up. At any rate, we should carry out the cleanup as we planned.
Rena's calm voice suddenly brought me back to my senses.
We need to carry him to the hole.
I nodded silently and grabbed Teppei by the shoulders. Rena grabbed one leg and Shion took the other. We carried Teppei. Everyone remained silent the whole time. Hey, what are you thinking? I stole a glance back at Rena. In the darkness, all I could make out was the sweat shining brightly on her face. We've lost a lot of time. I remembered the words Rena spoke a moment ago. Why did she think that? Indeed, we lost a little time thanks to Satoko's intrusion, but even so, the biggest task was carrying out the murder itself. I didn't understand why Rena was so concerned about lost time. If her mind and her face were telling different stories, then what meaning lay hidden behind Rena's current vacant expression? Looking back at Shion, her hair was getting damp from the sweat constantly running down her neck. The two of them didn't seem to notice my gaze, or perhaps they were pretending not to notice. Either way, they didn't look back at me. Hey everyone, what are you all thinking? Why am I not enjoying this at all? Why are these heavy feelings weighing me down? I should be feeling more cheerful about this. Because we did a good thing, didn't we? We did the right thing. It was all we could do. At least we're all friends, right? Friends who are going to bury an evil man together. And yet, why? Why am I so afraid of being alone? What is this? Fear? Don't make me laugh. What do I have to fear? It's foolish to feel scared now. There's no reason for it. Because I did a good thing, didn't I? Hey, everyone. Isn't that the case? Please tell me that. We worked together to create a monument to justice, didn't we?
Over here, right?
Thud. Teppei's body dropped down on the fallen leaves. Rena silently pushed Teppei with the tip of her toe and rolled him into the hole. Shion silently tossed a piece of cloth over the hole.
Aren't you exhausted, Keiichi-kun? Wouldn't it be better for us to do this together?
Rena was looking directly at me, but she didn't look like she was worried about me. I couldn't understand what they were talking about doing together. I took a deep breath into the bottom of my belly to calm my nerves. The cold oxygen traveled through my whole body. I repeated that several more times, trying to calm myself. Now's not the time to be tired, nor will thinking unnecessary thoughts do any good. I just need to finish the job. There was no way for any of us to escape from our mutual ties to this crime. That much was obvious. I felt something mushy below the toes of my sneakers. I felt like I kicked some of Teppei's belongings into the hole. Was that something? It doesn't matter. No sense thinking about it. I don't want to think about what I'm doing right now. I have work to do. Physical labor is mankind's primary role. It's an investment of our time in the pursuit of a noble future. I'm sure that I'm accomplishing something meaningful. Right here, right now. I'm sure of it. Alright then. Shall we take care of our respective duties?
Yeah.
Once I finished my display of bravado, I picked up the shovel once again. I'll handle the burial.
Yeah. And Rena will dispose of the tools in the swamp.
Then I'll sink his motorcycle in the swamp. Rena grabbed the remaining shovels and started walking in the direction of Onigafuchi Swamp, without a moment of hesitation. Shion straddled the motorcycle and grabbed the handlebars in a familiar gesture. Then the two of them disappeared off into the distance. Rena and Shion didn't seem to show any stress or excitement. They didn't even seem pessimistic. They simply went on to carry out the tasks we planned them in advance. Their absolutely ruthless composure gave me a small feeling of dread. Although, it's not like I'm seeing them off for the last time here. I still had work to do. I started to pile soil on top of the corpse. Fortunately, the dried blood made it harder to make out the shapes of Teppei's battered body. I piled the dirt on Teppei's face and open mouth without mercy. I stomped the dirt flat and piled on some more. Filling the hole was much easier than digging it. The soil was so much softer this time. Wouldn't it be harder because it's wet? Whatever. Don't think about anything, Keiichi Maebara. Just focus on the things right in front of you, right before your eyes. Of course, my arms were starting to feel heavy. The intense labor was taking a toll on my arms and back. The sweat flowing down from my forehead trickled into my mouth, and I wiped it away with my filthy hands. Ugh. The smell of the dirt wafted into my mouth. I suddenly began to wonder if I was getting buried myself. Well, you're all gonna die. Teppei's body was laying at the bottom of this filthy, bug-infested hole, with his face and body covered in dirt. The bitter dirt in this dark hole of sin will continue to weigh down on my conscience for the rest of my life. Give me a break. I shouldn't let my conscience weigh me down. Teppei is the bad guy here. He had no value in the world of the living. I actually did a good thing, didn't I? I could hear the sound of my breath. Of course, it's so quiet here, because there's nobody else anywhere nearby. Once I finish filling this hole, it'll all be over. Once the corpse is buried... Pat, pat, pat. Lukewarm breeze blew by, and I stopped moving my hands. It seemed like the wind wasn't the only thing causing the trees to move. Someone is there, behind my back. How long have they been there? Who is it, and for what purpose? Pat, pat, pat. I was afraid to turn around. I had a feeling that everything would end the moment I turned around. All the work I had done until now would amount to nothing.
Keiichi-kun, are you finished?
When I turned around, I saw Rena and Shion. They had apparently returned without me noticing. What? Don't scare me like that.
Huh? Did we catch you by surprise? Surprise?
Rena looked exhausted too. Though she was joking, neither of us were in the mood to laugh.
Kei-chan, I'll take Satoko on my scooter. It's dangerous to leave her here for too long. If she starts talking, we'll be in real trouble.
Right, understood. But where are you taking her? Shion thought about it for a moment, then made a big smile.
Please, leave it to me. I have an idea, but I can explain later. I'm sure the police will start making a fuss now that he's gone. So I'll take care of Satoko until things start to cool down.
Are you okay with that?
Of course!
Satoko's unconscious body felt heavy like a corpse as I carried her to Shion's scooter and sat her on the cargo rack. I placed her leaning against Shion's back in the driver's seat and wrapped Satoko's arms around Shion's body, then tied the two of them together with a belt. That way, Satoko wouldn't slip off.
Alright, Kei-chan. We'll talk later.
Then Shion's scooter traveled down the bumpy road, and that's the last time we saw them again, ever. And a moment later, the two of them disappeared.
Well, let's go.
After seeing Shion off, Rena started walking toward the highway. Go where?
To the festival? We need to create an alibi to avoid suspicion. That was part of the plan, wasn't it?
Almost everyone in the village was participating in the festival. Rena was right. We had to go in order to throw off suspicion. Honestly though, part of me just wanted to fall asleep right here. I dragged my exhausted legs forward and followed behind Rena.
Hey, Keiichi-kun, cheer up. People will think you look weird if you keep looking so tired, right?
Rena gave me a pleasant smile, sorry. How was she able to smile like that? Suspicion began to flow into my head, but I quickly forced those dark emotions out and berated myself for even thinking them. Rena's just doing the best she can, right? So I need to work hard too. It's all for Satoko. To take back our happy, everyday life. We're still carrying out the plan, right? Rena, could you lend me your shoulder? I braced myself on Rena's shoulder so that I could drag my heavy legs to the shrine.
Keiichi-kun, your arm is surprisingly heavy.
Rena was just as exhausted as me. but she used all her strength to make a simple joke. No, maybe she wasn't joking after all. I traveled alongside Rena, who was slightly blushing, while we escaped the gloomy forest. I mean, what better way to bond with someone than to commit a murder? You know, that's my plan. After that, we needed to wash away all the mud, sweat, rain, and the dishonor clinging to our entire bodies. So we stopped by at Rena's house to get changed. It looked like the party was in full swing. The shrine grounds were packed. Keiichi! Rena! You're really late. Where have you been? Mion gave Rena and I a glare that indicated she was sick of waiting.
Sorry, Mi-chan. Rena forgot something.
Rena playfully stuck her tongue out. Once I saw that, I immediately chimed in. Jeez. Women take far too long with their makeup. All that struggling, and it doesn't even make a big difference.
Come on! You're terrible, Keiichi-kun. Huh?
Rena looked at me with a pouty face. Seeing her nonchalantly make such a normal expression made me catch my breath. Rena, is this really you? How can you keep acting so normal right after committing murder? It's not that hard once you get used to it.
Keiichi-kun, you're terrible!
Rena raised her voice to invoke a response out of me, so I set aside my serious expression and did my best to wear a bright smile. I didn't mean it. Rena, you look really cute today.
Cute?
Rena started turning red. Maybe I genuinely cheered her up? Alright, I'm feeling fired up! I'll help negotiate if you want to head up the shops or something, okay? You can make jokes after you buy something. The old man selling takoyaki laughed graciously. I turned back after laughing with him, and my eyes crossed with Mion, who looked troubled. Hey, Kei-chan, Rena, what's up? Well, about Satoko. Mion was hesitating and speaking evasively. She didn't need to say anything. I already understood. In the end, Satoko had headed back home before she even got to the festival. Seeing how dejected Mion looked, I gently gave her a pat on the shoulder. It's not your fault, Mion.
That's right. We'll do our best tomorrow and think about what we can do to get Satoko back. Okay? Right, Mi-chan?
Kei-chan, Rena. Mion's expression gradually softened. She looked relieved. Was she expecting us to blame her for not stopping Satoko? Don't worry, Mion. We'll get it all back. Satoko will be able to smile anytime, anywhere, though she's probably already dead. Kei-chan, we need to get going. Rika-chan's performance is about to start. There's a place with a better view over that way. Let's go, let's go! Okay. Mion walked ahead to guide us. We pushed our exhausted bodies as hard as we could, trying to stay, should be a 2 there, in high spirits. We were at the shrine grounds on the night of Watanagashi. We had to look like we were having more fun than anyone else. In order to make that a reality, Rena and I pushed our aching bodies to the limit. Chapter split. Yeah. Alright, so then how does everything fuck up? Let's see. And then it's a great Hinamizawa disaster again. It felt like bloody dirt was inside my mouth. A metallic taste was stuck to my tongue. I was lying down on the hard, damp ground, right here, in a cramped hole. What? Choking on the combined smell of sweat, dirt, and blood. The hole wasn't very deep, but I couldn't get out of it. No matter how hard I tried to escape the hole, here I was. Ah, that's it. I'm already dead. So that's where I am. What? Pain ran down my back, and right after, something hard struck me. It was a bat. A metal bat. Satoshi's bat. What, are we in Teppei's perspective? A huge hatchet suddenly rose up above my head and sliced into my neck. I don't remember much after that. Either way, I'm already dead. I was murdered. In the Stamp Forest. Alone. Help! They're killing me. I could hear someone screaming. A deafening scream. Satoko. What's going on? I have no intention of killing Satoko. After all, I'm already dead. Rena and Shion were watching me, laughing. Oh no, we are in Keiichi's perspective, okay. Both of them were wearing clothes soaked with sweat and covered in dirt, with cold smiles on their faces. Hey, why are you guys making those cold faces? We're friends, right? We did this together because we're friends, right? We're comrades in arms. Please, welcome me with open arms.
Keiichi-kun, we're not friends. When are you going to wake up?
Rena smiled with her usual adorable expression. We're not friends? What did she mean?
Huh? Keiichi-kun, why would you ask Rena something like that? He's trying to ask question after question to keep us from asking questions of our own. His guilty conscience will never let him say anything.
I haven't done anything to feel guilty about. Excuse me. That wasn't a fart, my throat just made that noise. Satoko, I did all of this for you, right?
Kei-chan, that's enough. Because you're already dead, Kei-chan.
Shion! Rena! Satoko! It was a dream. I suddenly woke up. It was all a dream. At what point did I realize it was a dream? Right from the beginning. Because I'm not dead yet. In fact, I was the one who did the killing. I pictured Satoko's uncle writhing in agony in the dark forest. The reddish-black color of his blood. The gory remains of his face. Awkwardly trying to scurry away. Unable to get his pathetic little fingers on anything. And me, putting every ounce of strength in my body into swinging a metal bat. My stomach began to churn as those memories came back to me. Last night felt like so long ago. Still, it was all true. What I experienced yesterday was real. But when I thought back on it, it felt like there was an empty hole in my heart. What are you thinking? Get a grip, Keiichi Mayabara. I'm not in this alone. I have friends, don't I? Why do I need to cry about this? I set out on a mission and accomplished it completely, didn't I? I should hold my head high and feel proud of myself. I accomplished what nobody else could. I saved a helpless girl named Satoko, and it only took a single night. Keiichi, hurry up or you'll be late! Prompted by Mom's voice, I quickly changed clothes. I'm coming down now! I regained our ideal future. Starting today, our normal everyday life will resume. Nope. This is the usual happy morning. And Rena should be waiting for me in the regular spot. I was in a rush like usual, eating a delicious breakfast like usual, and racing out of the house like usual. Oh, okay. The sunshine gently illuminated the school building. I could hear the kids shouting in the schoolyard. The peaceful everyday life made its way here too. The gloomy, oppressive atmosphere from the other day felt like a dream, or a tale from a far-off land. Rena wasn't at the meeting place today. Neither was Mion. So I headed into the classroom alone, feeling slightly disappointed that I hadn't regained that piece of my everyday life. I wanted to see Satoko right away. That was the only thing I wanted. Satoko will definitely be at school today, won't she? And she isn't. Satoko, if you're at school today, I'll happily fall victim to one of your traps. I vigorously opened the classroom door. But for better or worse, no eraser fell on my head. Kei-chan, good morning!
Good morning, Mi-chan. Today was duty day, right? Rena forgot and waited at the usual spot for a while today.
Rena slipped in front of me and started talking to Mion in a surprisingly enthusiastic tone. Rena? Something felt off, like Rena was different from yesterday. Why didn't she come to our regular meeting spot? Was there no particular reason? No particular reason for going on ahead without me? Rena turned back to me and smiled. Maybe she sensed my apprehension.
Keiichi-kun, good morning.
Good morning. Before I even had a chance to ask her anything, Rena turned back to Mion and smiled.
Yesterday was so much fun, Mi-chan.
I couldn't understand what Rena was thinking. Is there a chance that Rena is trying to betray me? Or maybe the betrayal has already begun. The events of last night suddenly pricked me in the heart. No way. It can't be. That dream was just a dream. Not a prediction or a premonition. Kei-chan, you were acting pretty over the top, weren't you? I guess that's why you look so exhausted today, huh? You were pretty energetic yourself, Mion. You ate 8 servings of yakisoba. I raised my tone to better match the two of them. We were hanging out at the shrine grounds. Rena and I were there too, enjoying the festival. That was all a fact. It was an eating contest. Of course I ate a lot. You're the one who challenged me like it was some high noon duel, you know.
But Keiichi-kun did his best, didn't he? Even the takoyaki vendor liked him.
Of course. I'll make the takoyaki myself next year.
I think Keiichi should stick to being a salesman and let someone else handle the cooking.
What's that supposed to mean?
Keiichi, your cooking has destructive potential on par with thermonuclear weapons. It's terrifying. Mipa.
This old man doesn't want to eat Kei-chan's takoyaki either. What? Come on, Rena. Requesting cover fire.
Actually, Rena's stomach wasn't feeling too well.
That ambiguous response was pretty much a rejection. Come on! I was all on my own, with everyone laughing at me non-stop. We spent every free moment throughout the day sharing exciting stories about the festival. Even though it seemed obligatory to talk about the festival, I wasn't all that interested in going through it in detail. This was the mandatory after-festival event. The follow-up activity that was necessary for the festival to come to an end, so that the events of that day wouldn't need to be repeated anymore. I need to get it all out right here with everyone. Then the events of that night can be laid to rest. And with that out of the way, I can get ready to head home. All the same, I was tired. I wanted to enjoy sharing stories about the evening of the festival, from the bottom of my heart, but I just couldn't. Every time I talked about how much fun I had yesterday, I struggled to separate my feelings from my words. By the end of the day, my mind and body were exhausted. I'm done talking to people today. Rena might feel the same way. Alright.
Keiichi-kun, let's head home.
Fortunately, Mion and Rika-chan were on duty today, so I tried leaving the classroom with Rena. Later, Kei-chan! See you tomorrow, Rena! Mion waved at us while wiping the blackboard.
Bye-bye! Work hard and get your chores done, Mi-chan.
Are chores really something you need to work hard on? Wow, Kei-chan. You think it's okay to slack off on duty? This old man finds that terribly offensive. It's unacceptable. But if it's that easy for you, would you mind trading places? Now be serious. Besides, Rena takes duty day very seriously. Anyway, see you later.
Keiichi-kun, wait! Actually, Rena is not very good at duty.
I shuffled out of the classroom in a hurry, with Rena following behind. I could still hear Mion's boisterous laughter all the way in the hallway, and that's the last time we'll hear it.
Keiichi?
Right as I stepped into the schoolyard, Rika-chan caught up to me and came over with a journal in hand. She seemed less energetic than usual. Her shoulders were slightly drooped.
Rika-chan, What's wrong?
Rena was walking beside me and called out to her in a considerate tone. However, Rika-chan kept her eyes pointed toward the ground, gazing at the dirt around the schoolyard, and staring some more. Rika-chan? Rika-chan raised her head. Her eyes were red and swollen. I realized that Rika-chan must have been crying alone somewhere. Rika-chan, what's going on? Did something happen?
I'm okay. I just fell down. Look.
Rika-chan held her hands out. Both of her palms were covered in dirt.
Are you alright? We can go to the nurse's office together, okay?
Rika-chan vigorously shook her head. Then she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Rika-chan?
It's okay. I'm alright.
Rika-chan's voice seemed to fade out as she said that. But regardless of what she said, she didn't look okay.
But...
Rika-chan, you don't look like you're doing alright.
I'm fine. But more importantly, I have something to ask the both of you.
Something to ask? Rika-chan squeezed my wrist with tremendous strength. At first, I thought she grabbed my wrist because she wanted help. Like she wanted me to understand the pain she felt when she fell, and wanted me to bring her to the nurse's office. But that's not right. The incredible power clinging to my wrist was far too strong for a weak girl crying about falling down. That was when I realized she grabbed my wrist because she didn't want me to run from the question she was about to ask. A sharp light radiated from Rika-chan's eyes, directly into my own.
I just want to know about last night.
Rika-chan stared at me with a vacant look in her eyes. There was no strength in her eyes, like the eyes of a corpse. The emotionless look on her face was unbearable. In fact, it made me anxious. She's asking about the festival last night, right? Right? Why is she making that face while asking about last night? What's this about? I immediately looked away from Rika-chan.
Rika-chan, is there something you want to know? Is there?
Rena stout-heartedly stared back at Rika-chan, but I could see a hint of anxiety in her complexion.
Keiichi, Rena, do you know where Satoko went?
My breath came to a halt. I stole a quick glance back at Rika-chan's face. Her expression remained unchanged. She was still staring at me with her eyes open wide. Her mystical gaze gently surrounded me, and her eyes looked ominous.
I want you to tell me, where did Satoko go?
Rika-chan repeated her question. She seemed convinced that we knew the answer. I couldn't even look at Rika-chan.
Keiichi, on the night of the festival, did something happen?
My body began to tremble, and my wrist was certainly trembling too. Rika-chan must have been able to feel those vibrations.
Was it maybe something bad?
My legs were about to collapse from the fear. If Rika-chan knows everything, what can we do about it?
How about you, Rena?
Rika-chan slowly turned toward Rena.
Don't know! Rena went straight to the festival! Straight to the festival? Did you really go straight to the festival? Satoko went to the festival and never came back.
Dun-dun! My heart was ringing like a fire alarm. Why is Rika-chan asking about this so persistently? So persistent. Too persistent. Does Rika-chan already know about what happened last night? Could she have heard Satoko's screams? If she knew that much, just how much more did Rika-chan know?
Rena, please answer me.
Rena reflexively took a step back. I couldn't do anything. She still had a tight grip on my wrist.
Keiichi?
I wasn't sure how to answer. Rena was staring Rika-chan right in the eyes. Rika-chan turned her innocent eyes back and forth between me and Rena, and eventually let out a sigh.
I see. If you don't know anything, there's no point asking. I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful.
Feeling relieved, I started to breathe again. Then, Rika-chan released her grip on my wrist and began to speak in a somber tone.
Satoko is gone. I checked the Hojo house last night and again this morning, but it's really quiet. It seems like nobody's inside.
Rena and I couldn't find the words to respond to that.
I'm sorry. I got dirt all over your hand, Keiichi.
Oh, right, it's okay. It's just dirt, it washes right off.
Did you have dirt on your hands last night, Keiichi? Please, wash them properly. Keiichi and Rena don't know anything about Satoko. Sorry for bothering you. Nipa!
Rika-chan gave us her usual smile, then quickly ran off toward the school building. I quickly turned and started walking in the opposite direction without waiting to see her off. I single-mindedly walked through the school gate at a brisk pace. Rena silently followed behind me. Rena and I never turned back, so we had no idea if Rika-chan was looking back at us. So then, where the fuck did Shion take Satoko? Rena and I were walking side by side. Our conversation fell apart, and then we spoke up again as if we'd remembered something, only for the conversation to fall apart again. We exchanged a few words on a variety of topics as we carefully avoided one particular topic, and eventually our conversations really did fall apart. We've been walking in silence for a while now. Eventually, we arrived at the point where the path split towards Rena's house.
Hey, Keiichi-kun, I'm a little worried, you know.
That was the very thing I wanted to say since we left the school gate. Worried about what? I deliberately asked her to say more. It was probably about what happened with Rika-chan earlier. Rika-chan knows something, doesn't she? This is a far too serious matter to simply ignore.
About Satoko-chan.
Satoko? Since my mind had been entirely geared on doing something if Rika-chan knew anything, Rena's response threw me off a little. Satoko? Come to think of it, Rika-chan didn't seem to know about Satoko's whereabouts. If she knew, she wouldn't have been so persistent in asking about it, with that sad look on her face.
If nobody is home at the Hojo house, won't that seem abnormal?
Rena repeated that.
Someone in the village may have already noticed. The house is empty. Teppei aside, I think it'll cause a big commotion if they figure out Satoko-chan isn't there either.
Indeed. We might be in trouble if people go out searching for Satoko. I'll give Shion a call.
It would be better to meet Shi-chan in person. Rena has been worried since we split up yesterday.
That's true. We decided it would be best to meet at the same place in Okinomiya. I flopped down once I returned to my room. I didn't feel like watching TV or reading books. We traveled to Angelmort to see Shion, but she wasn't there. Apparently she was off today. I left a message asking her to call. Then Rena and I went home, but I still haven't gotten a call. It was around 9 p.m. I tried calling Shion a little while ago, but she wasn't there. I left a message on her answering machine asking her to give me a call, but I was still waiting for a response. Shion, it'd be nice if you called to let us know you got everything done safely last night. I wonder what she was doing while we were working our bodies in a frenzy at the festival. In the end, Shion never came to the festival. Even though we promised to corroborate each other's alibis by hanging out at the festival. The plan was falling apart thanks to the inclusion of the uncertain factor that was Satoko. I couldn't sit still, so I paced back and forth in the living room. constantly staring at the phone that never rang, going to the bathroom, getting a drink of water. Keiichi, is something wrong? Mom called out to me in a concerned voice. No, it's nothing. So I dejectedly headed back to my room. What if something happened to Shion? Insecurity quickly plagued my mind. Maybe something prevented her from making contact. Like what? The curse of Oyashiro-sama. Moron! Why would the curse target Shion? I scornfully laughed it off as a ridiculous idea. Still, I couldn't help but think about the curse. On the night of Watanagashi, one person dies, and one person goes missing. Satoko's uncle died. He was the victim this year. The 5th year's curse fell on Teppei Hojo, Satoko's uncle. But then, who went missing this year? The sound of the phone made me jump. Hello?
Kei-chan?
Oh. As soon as I heard that voice, I felt relieved from the bottom of my heart. Shion! All strength quickly released from my body. She was alive. Shion was safe.
Kei-chan, are you alright? I got your message, so I called. Is something wrong?
How can you ask that? We were worried about what happened after that. You should have called us. Shion was safe. My mind was getting lighter and lighter from the joy that fact brought me. I was so incredibly relieved. It was absurd to imagine the curse had taken Shion. I guess I was wrong to think something was wrong after all.
Sorry. I worried you, huh?
Yeah, extremely. But more importantly, were you able to make it home safely last night? We went to the festival afterwards like we planned, but weren't sure if you were okay.
Yeah, no problems.
So what happened to Satoko? Where did you hide her?
About that.
I felt a tense atmosphere suddenly pouring out of the handset. Did something happen?
The police are desperately searching for Teppei Hojo. They know he's been missing since last night.
The police have already found out about his disappearance?
Yes. Someone apparently saw him go out on his motorcycle that evening. And the Hojo house has been completely vacant since last night.
They were already aware of all that? I thought back on the dark forest where I buried Satoko's uncle. Alright, Shion, where did you take Satoko?
It's alright. She's sleeping quietly in a place where she won't meet anyone. When the time comes, I'll tell you, Kei-chan. But for now, I can't say.
Shion stubbornly refused to tell me where Satoko was hiding. I was beginning to feel suspicious of Shion. Why? Why can't you tell me where you've taken Satoko?
Since she disappeared with her uncle, the police are apparently looking into Satoko as a potential witness or suspect.
As soon as I heard that, it felt like being splashed with cold water. I shrank in on myself and began to shiver. The investigation was already underway? That was incredibly fast. But why? Shouldn't they only launch a major investigation after he's been missing a few days? So why? No way. Could someone have witnessed something last night? Or maybe. I carefully listened to the other end of the receiver. Shion remained silent, waiting for me to say something. The word betrayal crossed my mind. But who could it be? Did something bad happen last night? I recalled what Rika-chan asked me after school. When she gently grabbed me by the wrist, it felt like the dirt was still there. It was terrifying.
Kei-chan, you're not saying anything. Are you okay?
Shion, can we meet up tomorrow? I heard her gasp on the other end of the phone. Shion, is something wrong?
Not really. That's fine.
Then we'll meet at the Okinomiya library. I'll bring Rena with me.
Rena-san is coming too? Understood. See you tomorrow.
Then I set the receiver down and hung up the phone. My heart was throbbing for some reason. I shouldn't let things come between Shion and I, but it definitely made me feel anxious. There was nothing to be afraid of, but I couldn't shake a bad feeling about it. It's all right. Once I meet Shion tomorrow, I can clear up all the things I'm imagining. All my doubts will be eliminated once Shion tells me where Satoko is hidden. I hopped into my futon, wanting tomorrow to arrive as soon as possible. but I was still so anxious that I could hardly manage to sleep. Dude, how fucking long is this arc? I have to go to work in an hour and I'm fucking starving. So, I don't know if this is going to be the end of an episode, but I am going to stop recording for now. And continue after work. So, yeah, because I imagine we have to be almost done, but yeah. Anyway, see you guys tonight, lol. And it's after work, or nope, it's the next day, or nope, it's the next day. That happened. But yeah, continuing video, let's read. After school, Rena and I traveled to the Shishibone City Municipal Library in Okinomiya. It was frustrating sitting through class all day, but I was relieved when I heard the chime go off. Shion was already here waiting for us in the collection corner on the second floor. Shion! Okay, so no, she is still alive. I was suspecting she wouldn't be, but oh well. Shion turned around and slowly walked toward us.
Shi-chan, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Rena lightly chuckled after saying that. It hadn't been long at all. It was only the day before yesterday that we accomplished our great achievement together. Rena must also be feeling that night seemed so long ago. Or maybe Rena wants to forget about that night as soon as possible? No, maybe I'm overthinking it.
Hello, Kei-chan, Rena-san. Shall we head to the lounge?
Okay, so what's the odds that this is Mion? What are the odds, right? We each bought a juice from the vending machine, then sat down on the old couch in the corner of the lounge. Meeting at a coffee shop would have been good too, but I secretly like the juice here and this hard soda. What do you mean secretly? Oh, I'm just gonna pretend not to like juice. I'm 14. Well, I guess you would do that, wouldn't you? Whatever. The quaint atmosphere drifted into the lounge of the library. Just as I expected, we got here early enough that there were hardly any students or other customers around.
Shi-chan, has everything been alright since then?
Rena chewed on her ice as she asked Shion that question. Yeah! Ice Chewin is back!
Yeah, no problems. Sorry for making you worry. I wasn't sure if I should contact you. I was concerned that any movement would be problematic.
So, what's been going on? Shion turned her gaze downward as I leaned toward her, crunching ice into her ear. It's a parasite.
The situation doesn't look very good. I got some information from my contacts in the Sonozaki family. The police are in an uproar searching for Teppei Hojo.
Shion was also a member of the Sonozaki family. Sorry, stretching. The Sonozakis had incredible reach when it came to information gathering, ranging from public security channels to underground communications.
But why? Normally it takes about a week to begin to search for a missing person, right? And besides, it shouldn't be unusual for Teppei to leave the house for a day or two.
Rena was right about that. There was no reason for the police to be searching for him so hard. He was a scoundrel. Even if he went off and died somewhere, it wouldn't be that unusual.
If this were a normal incident, that wouldn't be the case. But what if they're investigating this as an incident on the night of Watanagashi?
Rena and I both gasped as soon as we heard that. The police think this is the curse of Oyashiro-sama? The curse of the 5th year?
A neighbor witnessed Teppei Hojo driving into the forest on his motorcycle. However, the police haven't yet gathered anything beyond that. Also, neighbors reported that the shouting they heard from the Hojo house on a daily basis suddenly stopped that day. And actually, the police have good reason to be tracing Teppei Hojo's footsteps.
Shion sounded evasive as she said that. I wonder why. Good reason? What on earth could it be?
About Tomatake-san. If you already know about it, I'd rather not say it again. So, do you know about that?
I had no idea what she was referring to. Rena looked confused too, scratching her head. We both shook our heads at the same time in response. Then Shion took a deep breath and exhaled. Tomatake-san died last night. Hasn't it? No, it's been 2 days since the festival. How did he die last night? Shion, what do you mean?
Exactly what I said. To be precise, it wasn't just Tomatake-san. A nurse named Takano-san, who was close to Tomatake-san, seems to have died as well.
It felt like a punch in the gut. 2 people died on the night of Watanagashi. And counting Teppei Hojo, that made 3. I guess it was a mistranslation, and last night is supposed to be 2 nights ago.
Witnesses saw both of them at the festival that night.
We didn't run into them. Maybe they went home early?
It's possible. So you're saying something happened to the 2 of them after the festival?
I believe so.
According to police intel, they found both their bodies. Tomatake-san committed suicide, and Takano-san was probably murdered.
Rena and I looked over at each other. I couldn't believe Tomatake-san was in the mental state to commit suicide. And what? Takano-san was probably murdered? Is it the barrel thing again? The night of Watanagashi. According to Shion, the police were on the way home to Okinomiya after wrapping up festival security when they discovered Tomatake-san. The cause of Tomatake-san's death was clawing out his own throat. Suicide.
With his own fingernails, scraping at his throat and slicing his blood vessels, tearing them apart. It was an unbelievably horrifying corpse. Tomatake-san drowned to death in his own blood.
Tearing out the flesh of his throat with his own fingernails. The pain of that exceeded the limits of my imagination. The only thing that came to mind was a horrifying display of blood. It couldn't be! I've never heard of a suicide like that! It's impossible! Without thinking, I began to shout. If this was Shion's attempt at threatening us, I wanted her to stop making sick jokes. Yeah, you guys are paranoid hella. But Shion remained still. She just stared at me, waiting for my emotional outburst to end, then continued.
Do you also need to hear an explanation about Takano-san?
I'm sorry. I gently apologized for raising my voice, and for suspecting that Shion would make such a tasteless joke.
Would you tell us?
In contrast to Rena's calm demeanor, I took several deep breaths to calm myself. Then, when I was finally able to breathe normally, I nodded to Shion and urged her to continue.
Takano-san's body was found incinerated.
Yet the barrel thing. Takano-san's corpse was apparently found deep in the mountains of a neighboring prefecture, far from Hinamizawa. The body was burned wearing only her underwear. They only learned it was Takano-san after verifying dental records during the autopsy.
There were no clothes in the vicinity, and a kerosene can was laying nearby, so they have strong reasons to suspect murder.
I can't imagine someone would commit suicide that way.
Right. So, that's why they suspect Yashiro-sama's curse.
I caught my breath. I could feel the fear steadily rising from the pit of my stomach. I realized I was beginning to tremble. This is the curse of Oyashiro-sama. 3 people died on the night of Watanagashi. Every year, Oyashiro-sama's curse causes 1 person to die and 1 to go missing. And yet, 3 died this year? You know how many more are gonna die? Everyone!
So that's why the police are frantically searching for Teppei Hojo. Right. He's a suspect.
I relaxed a little after hearing that. Rena seemed to feel the same way. She turned to me and lightly nodded. For better or worse, it may not be morally right to say, but it was a convenient development for us. If he's the bad guy, we have little to be concerned about. They have plenty of reasons to suspect him. If they're searching for him as a suspect, we don't need to worry. Wouldn't they also be searching for Sataka, though? Wherever Shion hid her?
Well, I suppose that's good, because this is the curse of Oyashiro-sama.
She said it like it was nothing. Rena was able to say that with a straight face, but I didn't miss the slight smile forming in the corner of her mouth.
The rules of the curse are the same every year. 1 death and 1 missing. And the missing person this year is Teppei Hojo. So, it's natural for them to believe they won't find him.
I see. We always believed that he would be this year's death, but that's not the case. He's the missing person. Then that's good. If they can't find his corpse, everything will be okay. Then we can bury all of this. I felt relieved. The weight on my heart was getting lighter. Except you just admitted to the murder to Mion, right? I'm not insane, because I find it very hard to believe that Shion's actually alive. This was an unexpected development, but it seemed we were saved by Oyashiro-sama. At last, we can be free of the horrible events of that night.
Right. The rain shouldn't have moved the dirt much, but the hole wasn't that deep.
Rena muttered something with a look in her eyes like she was calculating something. I tensed up at the idea she seemed to be reflecting on something beyond my comprehension.
So long as the number of victims and disappearances in Oyashiro-sama's curse match up, then there's no problem.
But still, I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should say anything. But still, can we really decide what is and isn't Oyashiro-sama's curse? Besides, even we might...
Keiichi-kun, you're worried that Oyashiro-sama's curse might fall on you too, aren't you?
Rena perfectly summarized my insecurity. I suppose it was plainly on display on my face. Yeah, I considered it for a while, but no matter how hard I thought about it, I couldn't find a reason for us to be cursed. It's because we haven't done anything wrong. Because we fought for Satoko's sake. So there's no reason for us to be cursed. But maybe I just wanted to see it that way. It was impossible to be sure.
That's right. Don't start getting faint-hearted here, Kei-chan.
Shion and I lightly laughed. Standing beside cheerful Shion, Rena had a dark expression. She stared down at the floor. Oyashiro-sama's curse states that 1 person dies and 1 goes missing every year. However, 3 people have died this year. In that case, do 3 people need to disappear?
Anyway, it's about time to go.
Rena stood up and stretched. I stood up too, but I had to release the words that were stuck in my heart. Shion, where is Satoko?
Shi-chan?
Just as I was about to press Shion some more, I noticed she was staring straight ahead with a stiff face. And when I looked in that direction, right there was... Oh! Maybe this isn't Mion, then? Please excuse me. A fat, middle-aged man with a cigarette was standing at the entrance to the lounge. Isn't that Oishi? The detective?
Oishi-san, how long have you been here? Do you think it's admirable to eavesdrop on the conversations of law-abiding citizens?
I'd like for you to continue being law-abiding citizens. Oishi showed little regard for Shion as he said that. He turned and looked at Rena and me. I couldn't find the words to respond to that comment. I had a bad feeling about this, so I instinctively turned and looked away. So why the fuck would you guys meet up in a public place, actually? After all this. Unless this is Mion, and I'm stupid. Or they're stupid. Slip of the mind. It's been a long time, Mayabara-san. I should probably introduce myself again. I'm Oishi from the Okinomiya police station. Where's my notebook? Here it is. Oishi thrust a worn-out notebook right in front of our noses. Did the police come to visit us? No way. Rena, Shion, and I should be the only people who knew we were coming here today. So if a police officer is running into us here, it must be a coincidence, right? You're Mayabara-san. Then you must be Ryugu-san, right? Listening to Oishi's prying voice made me feel uncomfortable. It felt like a fly was annoyingly buzzing around inside my brain. I should head home right away. I need to get out of here. I don't want to hear a single word this man has to say. Why did he come here? What does he want to ask me? Do you need something from us? I've heard a lot of rumors lately. Inamizawa is a small village after all. They're the type to remember a name and face right away. So it was the passersby, that's how you properly pronounce that word. Oishi crushed his cigarette and turned straight toward me as I was crushing my ice. My entire body tensed up. How long has this guy been here? Was he listening to our conversation earlier? And Shion didn't notice? What was his reason for approaching us? With sweat? Sure, good job, me. With sweat dripping from every pore in my body, I sternly urged myself not to say anything unnecessary. I understand. You're nervous because the police are suddenly talking to you. Sorry about that. Actually, I just want to have a friendly chat. There's no deeper meaning to this. Oishi boisterously laughed. There was nothing worth laughing about. Oishi was simply trying to relax the atmosphere. As if I'd ever let my tongue slip. We were actually getting ready to head out. If you want to have small talk, you'll have to wait until next time. Then Shion tried to make her way out of the lounge. Please wait. Maibara-san. I suddenly stopped moving and clicked my tongue in annoyance when he caught me off guard by calling out to me. I guess this detective is that sort of man. A sneaky old bastard. Well, I'd like to ask you a quick question. Maibara-san, where were you on the night before yesterday? Bang, my heart started racing. The police are already suspecting me for the murder of Teppei Hojo? The night before yesterday. Why not ask about the day of Watanagashi? Why ask about the night specifically? Is there something he can confirm by asking me that? So, wait. Is this literally just a mistake? Watanagashi was 2 days ago, right? I couldn't have forgotten that much or Mandela affected myself that much in 2 days, right? Nah, whatever. I gently glanced over at Rena. She was emotionlessly staring straight ahead, probably trying to hide her true feelings. The day before yesterday. You mean the day of the Watanagashi festival, right? Oh, no, it is still. I'm just stupid. Of course, I was celebrating at the festival, but... I carefully chose my answer. I tried my best not to add any unnecessary details. Oh, so you went to the festival. That's nice. I actually attend the Watanagashi festival every year. Of course, I attend as a security guard. So, what did you do at the festival? What did I do? I visited the stalls, had an eating contest, and played the shooting game. Still treading cautiously. It's fine, I actually did attend the festival. That was an undeniable fact. What time were you at the festival, Maibara-san? It finally came to that. If I answered this one carelessly, it would invalidate my story about the festival. I need to declare right here that I was partying at the festival right from the beginning. Well, actually, this was my first time attending the festival and I was really excited. So I wasn't really focused on the time. I suppose so. And how about you, Ryugu-san?
I was with Keiichi-kun the whole time.
The whole time? You were together for the entire festival?
Yes, everyone was together.
Rena wore a pleasant smile, like she was reminiscing about pleasant memories. If all the time we spent dragging our tired bodies having fun didn't come in handy now, then when? Right, we were all making a racket together. Shion's older sister Mion ended up winning the eating contest, right? I adjusted my approach to harmonize with Rena. Well then, Shion Sonozaki-san, what about you? Did you go to the festival too? Rena and I fell silent once again. The lively conversation instantly froze over.
I was at my part-time job.
Part-time job. Oishi furrowed his eyebrows. I started thinking about how I could back up Shion's sudden explanation. Part-time job? Even though all your friends were playing at the festival together, you spent the day at your part-time job? If you're scheduled, you can't just say, no, I don't feel like it. I mean, you could, I guess, but this is the 80s in Japan, so I'd imagine there's a little more of a stigma with that.
Yes. Keiichi and I go to different schools. We're not exactly friends.
We're not exactly friends. I was uncomfortable with how little Shion hesitated before saying that. I felt uneasy about the explanation itself, too, but I kept quiet for the time being. As long as Oishi is here, I should keep my mouth shut. I see. So, what kind of place do you work at?
A family restaurant. It's called Angel Mort. It's famous in this area.
Ah, I'm quite familiar with it. Quite. Their uniforms are really cute. I finally had a moment to say something, but after saying that, I couldn't think of anything else to follow up with. I mean, that's not that bad, though. Angel Mort, huh? Well, weren't they crowded the day before yesterday?
Yes, but it was manageable. Oh, if you need proof that I was there, you can ask my uncle. My uncle actually runs the shop.
Ah, the Sonozaki family is rather adept at running businesses. Then I'll feel free to take you up on that. So for now, let me just ask you this, Shion-san. What time were you working on the night of Watanagashi? I could see Shion getting more and more sullen as Oishi's relentless interrogation continued.
Well, I didn't get home until after 12. And I really need to get going to my job right now. At any rate, I worked pretty much that entire day. Now if you'll excuse me.
Shion let all that out at once in frustration, then quickly stormed off. Maybe that's not Mion. Rena and I rushed to follow her. Surprisingly, Oishi made no effort to pursue us. I gently looked back on my way out and saw Oishi lighting another cigarette in the lounge, smoking inside. What a fucking ass. After that, we quickly lost sight of Shion. I wonder if she really went to her part-time job.
Hey, Keiichi-kun?
Rena gave me an uneasy look while unlocking her bike at the bike rack.
Satoko-chan is safe, right?
Oh. Yeah? Shion says she's okay. I mean, she's okay, right?
Right. I just had a bad feeling for some reason. Rena must be imagining things.
Rena hopped on her bike and started pedaling vigorously. Just like me, Rena had to live with all these disconcerting events weighing down on her heart. Even though that night was already over, even though we fought together to take back our world, our peaceful world still hadn't come back. I want to see Satoko as soon as possible.
Yeah.
As we pedaled our bikes side by side, we reminisced about our precious everyday life. Christ, how fucking long is the rest of this arc? Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been able to finish it before work the other day, that's for damn sure.